but it's nice to see you guys all here. I can tell you guys are consistent numbers, so thank you for coming out, even though we have midterms next week and you guys are probably busy, but I promise you this is going to be a good use of your time. So let's start off by reading the mission statement, shall we? Can anybody want to do that? Tyler?
We provide a supportive and positive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth.
Thank you. All right, so without further ado, let's welcome our president, Tyler Chan, to the stage.
Thank you. All right, as Sarena said, it is about time for midterms, also for voting too. Is anyone voting this week? No. I had a class, one of my friends in another class was like, we're going to get our test moved to next week if all 35 of us vote. I'm like, we're voting this week? So, okay, that's great. Also, FIFA came out last week too, so no sleep. But without further ado, let's just go on with this great meeting, 6-1, with Zack Varghese as our Toastmaster of the day.
I'm going to be conducting the meeting. Basically, that means if this meeting is a huge success, it's my fault. And if it's a huge failure, blame Tyler, because he thinks I'm good enough to hold this position. So, now that I've cast all blame on him, let's continue on the meeting. And the first section is going to be prepared speeches. Of course, after that, we're going to have an impromptu speaking where anyone in the audience can be picked to speak for at least 1 minute. Not that big of a deal. But then after that, the evaluating section is going to happen where basically someone will be assigned to speak on what the prepared speeches, this section, could do better, what they did amazingly on, and what they're looking forward to in the next speech. Of course, throughout this entire meeting, there's going to be 3 evaluators that will basically keep tabs on the entire meeting. Our first evaluator is going to be Timer. Now, who's Timer? All right, so can you explain your role, please?
I can explain his role for him. He has lost his voice today.
Okay.
So the timer will be making sure that everyone is in time. The green will come up when you are within the minimum limit of the time. Yellow in the middle, and then red meaning you should probably end your speech fairly soon. You have 30-second grace period. So.
What does yellow signify?
Yellow.
Like how much time?
It means you're halfway within the specified zone. So, for instance, if it's a 5 to 7 minute speech, you've hit 6 minutes. It's right in the middle of the zone.
There is a typo on on the agenda. Actually, because this is your first speech, right? Yeah. The time limit is around 4 to 6. So you don't have to speak like super long. So at 5, the yellow card will come up, and that's when you want to wrap up. Aside from that, the prepared speeches are displayed right there. Evaluations are 2 to 3, and table topics, like I said, is 1 to about 2 minutes, with grace periods on the end side. With that, I'm going to move on to the first speech, which is Tyler. And not Tyler. I'm sorry, we had a lot of last-minute changes. Jessica is our first speech, and she's rapidly preparing how to speak on it. So, her first speech is titled, The Torments of Being a TA. Part 1. She apparently has a lot to speak on this. And this entire speech is going to be, a horror story of being a TA in the glorious campus of the University of Georgia. Oh, side note, one of the people in this class was actually a student of hers. Well, welcome Jessica up to the stage.
A TA is a UGA English term meaning one who is a student and who teaches. You may know them as the creepy chemistry lab person that comes up to you to make sure that H2O means water. You may also know the TA as the person who stands up and takes 15 hours of classes and has to do 2 publications of research each semester and teach 2 classes happily and joyfully. Yay! Such is the case with myself. As a TA, I have heard a collection of stories, all horrible and some good, about what it means to be a grad student at UGA. This tale today is about Emily Parsons, a TA for English 1103. Emily Parsons sat at her desk at night at 2 in the morning grading literary critique papers about Edgar Allan Poe. Huh. Interesting, she said to herself. She'd always been fascinated with the siblings, Chris and Emily Parsons in her class. She was fascinated by the fact that there was a student in her class with her exact name. Huh, who knew? And as she read Chris's paper, she jumped up and said, "Yes! This is the best paper ever! Ah!" And as she went to log into ELC to put in his grade, she heard an ominous sound coming from under the table. And as she looked down, she heard the sound of a raven go, "Nevermore, nevermore," from the outside. Strange, she thought. And as she was trying to log into her computer, the screen went black. She tried to turn it on and it just would not work. Damn it! And finally she realized, to her dismay, all her files had been deleted, including her 30-page paper that was due tomorrow. Shit! Days went by as Emily was mad as hell. She was unable to use her UGA email, something about the system down which impacted her computer, and she wasn't able to do anything. And she walked around just sad. And it wasn't until finally she got the courage to sit down. EIT had told her that her email was up and she finished grading the rest of the papers. And she came to Emily Parsons. Very good. Wait. This looks a lot... That's it! She logged into her UGA mail quickly, went to the spam folder, and there it was. You see, Chris Parsons had sent TA Emily an email thinking that was his sister Emily Parsons' email saying, "Hey sis, thanks for typing my paper. I got you, I'll take care of you later." Chris Parsons cheated! He cheated! That's it! And then he must have logged into the system and messed up my email because he knew that I wouldn't be able to log into my email, and then he went in to try to delete it but sent it to spam. That's it! Oh, I'm not crazy! Oh, thank God! Maybe I can email my teacher and explain to her what happened, and then I won't have to type the 30-page paper over, which is 40% of my grade. Emily sat back, enjoyed a glass of wine. She spent the last 2 days in absolute horror. This is wonderful. And then she remembered it. She heard the raven outside going, "Nevermore, nevermore." And she heard that ominous sound. She looked down and remembered something else. In order to tell her teacher why she needed the extension for the paper, she would have to report Emily and Chris to academic honesty. The implications would be getting the siblings kicked out of school. Oh my God. this concludes part 1 of A Tale of a Tormented TA. Check out next week for the conclusion. Thank you.
I knew when you speak, there's an amount of theatrics to your speech. I didn't know it was that much. But let's take about 30 seconds. Oh yeah, let me help you out with that. Let's take about 30 seconds to write an evaluation on Jessica's speech. Tell her we are handing these slips over back to Jessica at the end of the meeting, so tell her stuff that she can improve on in this speech. Stuff that she did amazing on. And what was the goal of the speech again?
To entertain.
To entertain. So the main theme is this entertaining to you? Did you find this fascinating? And, oh wait, 30 seconds, right? Was Jessica in time? Okay. While you are passing those into the center, to these buckets on the center aisle, I'll introduce our next speaker. He's going to speak about the new Google conference that happened called I.O., right? At that conference, they were actually discussing a breakthrough of a technology, a new artificial intelligence, right? So Tyler will explain all the intricacies and everything that you need to know about this new piece of technology. Please welcome Tyler to the stage.
Thank you. All right. So in May and early June of this year, Google had their developer conference called Google I/O. And at this conference, they announced this new AI they created called Google Duplex. Google Duplex is a new AI that enables humans and computers to have natural conversations with one another. Ever since then, or now, it's always been the humans having to adjust to the system whenever we speak to a robot. Let me give you an example. You know, you get those telephone, like telemarketer calls, and it's like, hey, I'm Daniel, and I'm here to tell you you have been awarded a free cruise. Please accept. And then the second you ask any question, it's like, oh, I don't remember entering for a cruise. Where's it to? It'll sort out. It'll be like, sorry, I do not understand. Please try again. And then you just hang up. It's always been like that until now. Now the system will adjust to the human. And to kind of explain what I mean, let me kind of just demonstrate what I'm talking about.
Hi, I'm calling to book a woman's haircut for a client. I'm looking for something on May 3rd. Sure, give me 1 second. Sure, what time are you looking for around? At 12 p.m. We do not have a 12 p.m. available. The closest we have to that is a 1:15. Do you have anything between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m.? Depending on what service she would like, what service is she looking for? Just a woman's haircut for now? Okay, we have it 10 o'clock. 10 a.m. is fine. Okay, what's her first name? The first name is Lisa. Okay, perfect. So I will see Lisa at 10 o'clock on May 3rd. Okay, great. Thanks, great. Have a great day. Bye.
And then there's one more example over here, but with a speaker with an accent.
Can I hear you?
Hi, I'd like to reserve a table for Wednesday the 7th.
For 7 people?
It's for 4 people.
4 people with
Next Wednesday at 6 p.m.
Oh, actually, we need to for like after like 5 people. For people you can come.
How long is the wait usually to be seated?
For when tomorrow or weekday or?
For next Wednesday, the 7th.
Oh no, it's not too busy. You can come for 4 people, okay?
Oh, I gotcha. Thanks.
Some freaky stuff. So if you didn't know, this technology is coming. And you're probably wondering, how does it really work? So first, I'm going to show you something called the TCP/IP layer. This is how the internet is basically built upon. It's built upon all these layers. And one thing you have to take away from this is that the Google Duplex is in the application layer. That means it's in the same layer as software and mobile apps, which means you don't have to buy special wires, you don't have to buy a special router. If you have a Google-enabled device, such as an Android or a Pixel, or even a PC, then you have access to Google Duplex eventually. So if you're on the fence about jumping from Apple to Android, there we go. All right, and now we'll go into how Google Duplex works. So Google Duplex runs on something called a recurrent neural network. Basically what that means is that it takes an input, such as a response or a question, and it runs it through all these hidden nodes. And all these little nodes are just a bunch of matrices and logical algorithms that enable the question to go through all these and then find the least incorrect answer. So it'll reduce errors here. And what that means is that whatever thing it receives, it'll go through all these nodes, and then finally it'll give the user, the end user, an answer that they hope will be least incorrect. And all these algorithms and matrices, a little out of the scope for what this presentation is really about. Basically, all you have to know is that these nodes are just trying to reduce errors. It gets wild. It's super wild. Basically, with all these features, it'll take your audio features, it'll take in context and parameters, and then ASR, which is automatic speech recognition technology, which is by Google. And then it'll use the internal state memory, which is enabling it to listen to context from just not only a sentence back, from maybe minutes back or several sentences back, because that's how humans speak and talk. And then it'll finally give out a TTS, which is a text-to-speech response. All of this is super simple from here, but it's really complex in the background. That's why it's been taking a long time for this technology to exist. And as you saw from the demo, there's certain nuances that makes it sound very natural. You heard it say, yeah, all these little things. It doesn't have to say that, but it does. And the reason for that is because of latency. For example, if I were to ask you a question, let's say I ask Ben, hey, how are you today?
Good.
You expect an immediate answer, instantaneous. You don't want the robot to say, good. Because then that wouldn't be natural. It'd sound robotic. But if you ask someone a more complex question, such as, sorry, your reservation for Saturday at noon can't work, can you do noon or 2, somewhere around there in between? Then Google Duplex will think, and then process in the background as if a real human would. And then generate a response as if it's a real human. And all this comes together for this main purpose, for the user to eventually be able to just talk to their phone, making sure my phone's not around me. You can say, hey Google, hey Google, schedule a haircut appointment for this Saturday at noon. And then Google Duplex behind the scenes will call this hair salon, and then eventually you'll get a message back saying, hey, your haircut was successful, or it's been scheduled to another time. And for businesses, this is a big step, especially for small businesses, because 90% of small businesses do not have an online interface to interact with their customers and their audience. So let's say you're South Kitchen and Bar, and someone wants to reserve a table, but let's say it's 11 p.m. This enables Google Duplex to wait until they're open, and then they'll reserve a table for you when it's needed, and then they'll put it in your Google Calendar for you, and then send you a notification. Or let's say it's Labor Day, and the hours change, but you don't know when it's open because they'll just say hours will differ. Google Duplex will call South Kitchen and Bar and ask, hey, when are you open today? And then someone hopefully at South Kitchen will answer and say, we're open today from 5 to 10 p.m. And on behalf of all customers, it will update this Google search bar for everyone. It's pretty neat. And let's say you're not in America. Let's say you go to Hong Kong. And you're thinking, all right, I'm in Hong Kong. I gotta get some nice dim sum, you know? I gotta get that dim sum. But you don't know Cantonese, but you want to go eat somewhere. Google Duplex not only works in English, but eventually it'll work in other languages. So you can go to Tim Ho Wan, and then you can call them up and say, hey, I want to go eat at 7 p.m. or something like that. Actually, no, there's no dim sum at 7, so let's say noon time. And then it'll reserve a table for you in another language. Or let's say you can't speak. Let's say you lost your voice like Daniel did over here, and you can't make a call. That can also help you as well. All these little things can help not only customers, but also businesses. But this brings up a big concern for people that are kind of scared of technology. Okay. Because Google Duplex passes something called the Turing test. If you don't know what the Turing test is, it's created by someone named Alan Turing. This dude. He is the father of computer science back in the 1950s. This test, all it does is that it gives a human a scenario to speak with a computer and a robot, or a computer and a human. And if the human, over here, cannot distinguish who is the computer or the human, then it passes the Turing test. So as you saw from the Google Duplex demos, the hairstylist and the employee at the restaurant did not know they were speaking to a robot, which means it passes the Turing test. He predicted that we'd have technology like this by the year 2000, and it wasn't until 2014 that we got a chat box that can pass this Turing test. But now in 2018 we have a technology through speech that passes this Turing test, which is a little bit ahead of schedule. And that gets people a little concerned, because now they're thinking, do we have a right to know when we're speaking to a robot? I don't know why that's a concern to some people, but I've been talking to my professor about this, and I was asking him, I was like, should we have Google tell people that they're talking to a robot? And he told me, no, of course not, because when you talk to another person on the phone, sure you say, hello, I'm Tyler, but you don't have to say, I'm a human. So why do we have to discriminate against machines and say, hello, I'm your Google assistant. I'm Google Duplex trying to make a phone call on behalf of a human client. But because of this concern, Google's a chill and cool company, and that's why they've announced that they will be transparent about it. So if you ever do encounter a Google Duplex device, it will explicitly tell you. So you don't have to worry if that is the concern. So what are some key takeaways I want you to take from hearing about Google Duplex? Right now, it's still very niche in what it can do. It can only handle certain scenarios that it's been trained to do for scheduling events or updating certain pages on Google, or talking to certain clients like hairstylists or restaurants. And also it can only handle certain situations, such as interruptions, elaborations, or syncs. Syncs just is things such as, hey, are you there? Yeah, I'm here. Certain things like that. But eventually, as this technology grows, it will become even better. And then eventually we'll have something called a general AI. Something like Jarvis from Iron Man, or Cortana from Halo. All these little things can accumulate to what we all kind of were hoping for in the future. A general AI that can help you do anything you want. But for now, it's still very niche, but it's exciting for everyone who has Android devices or Google-enabled devices in the future. Thank you.
Never has there been a case to switch over to Android. Just kidding. I actually do have Android, and I'm looking forward to that. Well, there was a great speech. Was it in time though? All right, another one in time. So another 30 seconds to review Tyler on his technical presentation. Is there any specific goals that you have for that speech?
It was just to have visual aids, make sure everyone understands.
Okay, so for the visual aids, very like common sense, so you understanding what is happening or what happens on the screen, and did it actually help you understand what this AI is supposed to be?
also presenting this for a class at the end of the semester, so if you ever have any presentations you want to work on, it's a good place to try.
So a really good thing for you to do is critique him with no remorse so he can be better. Or at least that's what I think he wants.
How do we ask the Google Assistant? Ask the Google Assistant.
Ask the vocals?
Google Assistant.
Oh yeah.
Tyler, what do you want?
At this point, the Google Assistant can probably give him his speech for him, so.
That's the dream.
Okay, Google.
Just
Win the auction. for this
Recite,
item.
recite this with the same dramatic flair, thank you.
Okay, Google, do my presentation.
Okay, Google, type the 30-page paper that's due at the end of the semester.
But what if it becomes where it can't do that? Like, then how are teachers going to ensure
First world
I was going to mention it, but I was going to take this.
But then how are they going to prove it within the sheet?
What limits do we have?
Oh, it's simple. Just get them to come in and tell us about, ask questions about the paper in person.
Or make you have to write it in person. Which one's that?
You can still cheat.
Google move my head.
Why can't we? Oh my
Have a
gosh.
pen that
Yeah,
like
Google
magnetically like
telekinesis.
moves.